Picture a man seated alone in a crowded coffee shop, a solitary figure amidst a whirlwind of restless activity. Around him, the world is a cacophony of distraction, patrons hunched over screens, frantically scrolling through social media, chasing ephemeral validation from faceless strangers, couples snapping selfies to broadcast their curated happiness, groups exchanging gossip to fill the void of silence, and lone individuals swiping through dating apps with a desperation that betrays their fear of being alone. Yet, this man remains untouched by the chaos. With earbuds in, he listens to a philosophy audiobook, his mind immersed in ideas that transcend the fleeting noise of the crowd. He is not lonely, not desperate, not seeking anything from anyone. He is complete in his own company, a beacon of quiet strength whose mere presence unsettles the room. This man, in his serene self-sufficiency, is society's greatest threat. But why does his independence, his comfort in solitude, his refusal to crave external validation provoke such unease? Why does a person who needs no one terrify a world built on neediness? The answer lies in a truth society dares not confront. Its entire structure, economic, social, political, cultural, and psychological, is predicated on your dependence. From the advertisements that promise fulfillment through consumption to the social platforms that thrive on your hunger for likes, from the dating apps that exploit your fear of loneliness to the self-help gurus who peddle connection as salvation, every facet of modern life assumes you are incomplete without others. You are urged to find your soulmate, build your network, seek community to be whole, as if solitude were a disease to be cured. This narrative is not accidental. It is a deliberate construct designed to keep you tethered to external systems, a compliant cog in a machine that profits from your insecurity. But the man who sits alone, content in his own skin, represents a radical rebellion against this paradigm. He is dangerous because he is free from the addiction to approval, free from the fear of silence, free from the need to conform. His solitude is not a weakness but a fortress, and that fortress threatens the very foundations of a society built on fragility and craving. This exploration delves into the philosophy of solitude, drawing on the timeless insights of Friedrich, Nietzsche, and Marcus Aurelius, to thinkers who, centuries apart, understood the transformative power of self-sufficiency. It examines why society fears the individual who can stand alone, how solitude fosters independence, and how embracing this path can redefine your life, relationships, and place in the world. By rejecting the societal demand for external validation and cultivating a rich inner life, you become a force that cannot be controlled, manipulated, or silenced, a threat to a system that thrives on compliance and conformity. Through historical, mythological, and modern lenses, this text unveils the radical power of solitude, offering a blueprint for becoming dangerous in the best possible way, by becoming whole. The lie of neediness, society's fragile foundation. At the heart of modern society lies a pervasive lie: you are incomplete without others. This narrative is woven into every advertisement that promises happiness through a new gadget, every social media platform that measures your worth in likes, every cultural norm that equates solitude with failure. The message is clear: to be happy, you must connect, consume, and conform. Find your soulmate to complete you. Build a network to validate you. Seek community to define you. This dogma is not a benign suggestion, but a calculated strategy to keep you dependent, a consumer of products, attention, and approval. A lonely person is a profitable one, buying goods to fill an imagined void, chasing relationships to escape emptiness, and losing themselves in distractions to avoid their own thoughts. Yet, the individual who embraces solitude disrupts this system. They do not buy what they are told to buy, do not seek the validation they are told to crave, do not live as they are told to live. Their independence exposes the fragility of a society built on dependence, a system that relies on your insecurity to sustain itself. By labeling solitude as loneliness, society pathologizes self-sufficiency, casting the independent as outliers to be pitied, fixed, or feared. But the person who finds peace in their own company, who needs no external distraction to feel complete, is not weak, they are powerful. their freedom from the addiction to approval, the fear of silence, and the pressure to conform makes them a rogue element in a world designed for predictability. They are dangerous because they are untethered, a storm that cannot be harnessed, a shadow that cannot be grasped. Philosophical foundations. Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius, two philosophers, separated by centuries, understood this dangerous truth. Friedrich Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor whose authority could command legions, chose to spend his evenings in solitude. Writing in his private journal, *Meditations*, he declared, "All cruelty springs from weakness," recognizing that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself. Despite his immense power, he sought no external validation, instead engaging in relentless self-reflection, questioning his desires, fears, and actions. His solitude was not isolation, but a forge for self-understanding, a discipline that made him impervious to the manipulations of others. By confronting his inner world, Marcus built an inner fortress, a sanctuary of strength that rendered the flattery, criticism, and social games of the Roman court irrelevant. Nietzsche, the iconoclastic philosopher whose ideas reshaped Western thought, took this further. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe." For Nietzsche, solitude was the crucible in which one creates their own values, free from the suffocating weight of tradition, religion, or social expectation. The person who dares to think for themselves, who rejects the inherited beliefs of the collective, becomes a threat to the status quo. Solitude, he argued, is not a retreat, but a rebellion, a refusal to be subsumed by the tribe's demands. Both men understood that the ability to be alone with one's thoughts is the foundation of independent thinking, and independent thinking is dangerous because it dismantles the scaffolding of societal control. When you no longer rely on the approval of others, you become a force that cannot be predicted, manipulated, or silenced. The psychology of the dangerous loner happens in the mind of someone who chooses solitude over social validation. First, they have broken free from the addiction to approval, while others chase dopamine hits from likes, comments, and shares. The solitary individual finds a deeper source of validation, self-respect rooted in self-knowledge. They measure their worth, not by external metrics, but by their alignment with their own principles, a compass forged in the quiet of their own mind. This independence is unsettling because it renders them immune to the social games that govern most interactions. Flattery loses its allure, criticism its sting, and status its power. Second, they have learned to embrace discomfort. Most people cannot endure a moment alone with their thoughts without reaching for a distraction, a phone, a song, a conversation. Silence is a mirror, reflecting the self in all its rawness, and for many, this reflection is unbearable. The dangerous loner, however, has faced their inner demons, their fears, insecurities, and failures in the crucible of solitude. They have had those late-night conversations with themselves, wrestling with their shadows until they emerge stronger, more resilient, and unafraid of silence's revelations. This self-acceptance makes them formidable, for they are no longer at the mercy of their own doubts or society's judgments. Third, and most critically, they cannot be manipulated. When you do not need others for validation, the threat of rejection loses its power. You cannot be bought with popularity, silenced by social pressure, or swayed by flattery. This invulnerability is what makes the solitary individual so threatening. They are a rogue element in a system that thrives on compliance, a wild card in a game rigged for predictability. Their independence exposes the fragility of those who rely on external affirmation, and this exposure is a wound to the collective ego, a reminder of the chains others wear. The Marcus Aurelius method, forging strength through solitude. Marcus Aurelius developed a practice that remains revolutionary: the evening review, a ritual of disciplined self-reflection. Each night, he would sit alone and examine his day, asking probing questions. What did I desire that I did not need? What fears held me back from what I could control? What actions compromised my values for the sake of approval? This was not mere journaling, but a form of psychological training, a way to build resilience against the temptations of external validation. By confronting his motivations and weaknesses, Marcus forged an inner fortress, impervious to the shallow games of flattery, manipulation, and social pressure. His solitude was a forge, tempering his mind into a blade that cut through the illusions of the Roman court. This method is a blueprint for modern solitude. To become dangerous in the best sense, you must cultivate this discipline of desire, stripping away the superfluous wants imposed by society. When you know yourself deeply, your strengths, flaws, and triggers others' attempts to manipulate you become transparent. Their compliments lose their allure, their criticisms lose their sting, and their social hierarchies become irrelevant. You become free because you have faced your shadow and found peace within it. This freedom is what terrifies society. For a person who cannot be swayed by external forces is a person who cannot be controlled. The Nietzschean challenge, creating your own Nietzsche, took this idea to its radical extreme, arguing that the truly dangerous individual is one who creates their own values rather than inheriting them from the tribe. Most people live with beliefs they never chose: moral codes, religious tenets, or social norms passed down by parents, peers, or culture. These unexamined beliefs make them predictable, malleable, and compliant, pawns in a system that thrives on their obedience. But the person who spends time alone begins to ask uncomfortable questions. Why do I believe this? Who benefits from my belief? What would I value if I started from scratch? These questions are dangerous because they dismantle the scaffolding of societal control, freeing the individual from the chains of inherited thought. By forging their own moral code, the solitary individual becomes unpredictable. They do not buy what they are told to buy, vote how they are told to vote, or live as they are told to live. They are not immoral, but often more moral than the average person, for their values are rooted in reason, experience, and introspection, not blind adherence to tradition. This value independence makes them a threat to systems that rely on conformity. Whether economic, social, or political, they are the rogue philosophers, the free thinkers, the ones who refuse to bow to the altar of collective opinion. Their solitude a rebellion against the tyranny of the tribe. The cultural evolution of solitude, from outcast to outlier fear of solitude, is not a modern phenomenon but a cultural construct that has evolved over centuries. In ancient societies, solitude was often revered as a path to wisdom. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, saw it as a means of self-mastery. The ascetics of early Christianity and Eastern traditions embraced it as a gateway to spiritual enlightenment. Yet, as societies grew more interconnected, solitude became suspect, a deviation from the communal norm. The Industrial Revolution, with its emphasis on collective labor, and the rise of consumer culture further stigmatized the solitary individual, casting them as lonely, maladjusted, or dangerous. Today, this stigma is amplified by the digital age, where constant connectivity is equated with success. Social media platforms profit by fostering a culture of comparison and validation, rewarding those who share and punishing those who withdraw. The solitary individual, who opts out of this cycle, is seen as a threat not because they are harmful, but because they expose the emptiness of the system. Their contentment in solitude highlights the discontent of those who rely on external affirmation, their freedom the captivity of those chained to likes and followers. By choosing solitude over loneliness, they challenge the cultural narrative that equates connection with fulfillment, becoming outliers in a world that demands conformity. The modern epidemic, loneliness versus solitude, associates confusion of loneliness, and solitude is a deliberate strategy to maintain control. Loneliness is a state of lack, a gnawing sense of incompleteness that drives you to seek external solutions, products to buy, relationships to chase, distractions to consume. Solitude, by contrast, is a state of wholeness, a deliberate choice to find fulfillment in one's own company. It is the ability to sit in silence, to enjoy your own thoughts, to create a rich inner life without needing others to validate your existence. Society conflates these states because it profits from loneliness. A lonely person is a consumer, a compliant cog in the machine, easily swayed by promises of belonging or status. But the person who embraces solitude is a rebel, a force that cannot be controlled by the levers of social pressure, popularity, or rejection. This distinction is critical because it reveals the power dynamics at play. By labeling solitude as loneliness, society pathologizes independence, framing it as a problem to be solved rather than a strength to be cultivated. The solitary individual disrupts this narrative, refusing to buy into the myth of neediness. They do not seek the validation they are told to crave, do not conform to the norms they are told to follow, do not live in the ways they are told to live. Their independence is a mirror, reflecting the insecurities of a society that thrives on dependence, and this reflection is what makes them dangerous. The 4 pillars of dangerous solitude are drawing on the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche. 4 key principles define the dangerous power of solitude. 1. Radical self-honesty. The solitary individual confronts their motivations, fears, and desires with unflinching honesty. They do not shy away from their flaws or delude themselves to feel better. This self-awareness makes them dangerous because they can spot lies in others, see through manipulation, and remain unfazed by flattery or criticism. Their clarity is a weapon, cutting through the illusions of social performance. 2. Value independence. They develop a moral code based on reason and experience, not social pressure or tradition. This does not mean rejecting morality, but crafting one that aligns with their inner truth. Their independence from external authority makes them immune to shame or guilt, allowing them to act according to their principles, regardless of societal expectations. 3. Emotional self-sufficiency. They rely on themselves for emotional well-being, finding peace within rather than seeking it from others. This self-regulation makes them impervious to emotional manipulation, as they do not need approval, love, or acceptance to feel complete. Their inner strength is a fortress others cannot breach, a sanctuary of calm amidst the chaos of the world. 4. Intellectual courage. They dare to think thoughts others avoid, question beliefs others accept, and follow evidence wherever it leads, even into discomfort. This courage makes them dangerous because they cannot be silenced by social pressure. They speak truth even when it costs them, and their willingness to stand alone amplifies their influence, making them a beacon for others who seek freedom. The role of art and creativity in solitude is not merely a state of being, but a creative act, a canvas for self-expression and self-discovery. Artists, writers, and thinkers throughout history have harnessed solitude to create works that challenge the status quo. Consider Ludwig van Beethoven, whose deafness forced him into a profound solitude, yet from that isolation emerged symphonies that reshaped music. His inner world, cultivated in silence, became a source of revolutionary creativity, defying the conventions of his time. Similarly, Virginia Woolf, in her essay A Room of One's Own argued that solitude is essential for creative and intellectual freedom, particularly for those marginalized by society. Her solitude was not loneliness, but a space to forge her own voice, a rebellion against the constraints of her era. This creative power of solitude is what makes it dangerous. When you cultivate a rich inner life through writing, art, music, or thought, you create something that cannot be controlled by external forces. Your creations become a testament to your independence, a challenge to the collective's demand for conformity. They are a declaration that you do not need the world's approval to create, to think, to be. This is why solitary individuals, from artists to philosophers, have always been society's outliers, feared for their ability to reshape the world through the power of their inner vision. Historical and mythological archetypes, the solitary rebel history, and mythology are replete with figures who embody the dangerous power of solitude. In Greek mythology, Prometheus, the titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity, was a solitary figure whose rebellion stemmed from his independence of thought. His punishment, eternal solitude chained to a rock, only amplified his legend, making him a symbol of defiance against divine authority. Similarly, in Christian tradition, John the Baptist lived in the wilderness, his solitude a source of spiritual strength that allowed him to challenge the corrupt powers of his time. His voice, honed in isolation, carried a weight that unsettled kings and priests alike. In more recent history, Figures like Henry David Thoreau embraced solitude to question societal norms. In Walden *, Thoreau documented his 2 years living alone in the woods, not out of loneliness, but as an experiment in self-reliance. His solitude was a rebellion against the materialism and conformity of 19th century America, a call to live deliberately, free from the demands of society. These figures, from myth to modernity, illustrate that solitude is not a retreat, but a revolution, a refusal to be subsumed by the collective's expectations. Modern parallels, the outliers of today. This threat of solitude persists in the modern world. Consider Elon Musk, whose relentless pursuit of his own vision, often in defiance of conventional wisdom, has made him a polarizing yet undeniable force. His ability to work alone, to think independently, and to disregard public opinion has reshaped industries, even as it unsettles those who demand conformity. Or take Simone Biles, who prioritized her mental health and self-understanding over societal expectations, choosing solitude over the spotlight and emerging stronger for it. Her decision to step back from competition was not weakness but a powerful act of self-sufficiency, a refusal to let external pressures define her worth. In literature, characters like Ayn Rand's Howard Rourke in *The Fountainhead* embody this principle. Rourke, an architect who refuses to compromise his vision for social approval, is dangerous because he is complete in himself. His solitude is not loneliness, but a rejection of the collective's demand for conformity, making him a threat to those who thrive on compliance. Similarly, in film, Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name and Sergio Leone's westerns wields an aura of solitude that terrifies. His silence, his self-reliance, his refusal to explain himself make him a force others cannot predict or control. These modern and fictional archetypes demonstrate that solitude is not a flaw but a force, a path to becoming a figure who reshapes the world through their independence. The price of independence, isolation and misunderstanding. Path of dangerous solitude is not without cost. Choosing self-sufficiency over societal neediness invites misunderstanding, judgment, and isolation. People will label you antisocial, arrogant, or strange, unable to comprehend your preference for your own company. Friends may drift away, threatened by your independence. Family may resent your growth, uncomfortable with your divergence from the norm. Society will exert subtle and overt pressure to conform, to be more social, more normal, more like everyone else. You may feel isolated, not lonely, but apart, existing on a different plane of consciousness from those around you. A solitary star in a sky of conformity. Yet, the price of conformity is far greater. It is the surrender of your soul. To conform is to live someone else's life, to adopt beliefs you did not choose, to chase validation you do not need. The solitary individual pays the price of isolation to gain something far more valuable: freedom. This freedom is what makes them dangerous. For a free person cannot be controlled, manipulated, or silenced. They are a rogue wave in a sea of predictability, a shadow that defies the light of conformity, a storm that cannot be tamed. Why society fears the self-sufficient individual threatens society on multiple fronts. Economic ***. Our economy thrives on people buying things they do not need to impress people they do not like. A person content in solitude is a poor consumer, unmoved by advertisements promising happiness through possessions. They disrupt the cycle of consumption that fuels economic systems. Their frugality is silent rebellion against materialism. Social ***. Social hierarchies depend on people caring about status. When you do not seek status, you cannot be controlled by it. Your indifference to social games makes you unpredictable, a wild card in a system that demands conformity. Your presence challenges the pecking order, exposing its fragility. Political ***. Democratic and authoritarian systems alike rely on influencing public opinion. A person who thinks for themselves, who questions inherited beliefs, is harder to sway with propaganda or popular sentiment. Their independence undermines political control, making them a threat to power structures. Psychological ***. Your contentment highlights others' discontent, your freedom their captivity. The self-sufficient individual is a mirror, reflecting the insecurities of those who rely on external validation. Their presence makes others' cages more visible, their chains more palpable, their neediness more painful. Cultural ***, in a culture that equates connectivity with success. The solitary individual challenges the narrative that happiness requires constant interaction. Their ability to find meaning in solitude undermines the myth of collective fulfillment, exposing the emptiness of a society obsessed with external validation. The existential implications, solitude as liberation beyond its societal threat. Solitude carries profound existential implications. To embrace solitude is to confront the fundamental questions of existence. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I value when no one is there to judge? What is my purpose when stripped of external expectations? These questions, born in the silence of solitude, lead to a deeper understanding of the self, a liberation from the illusions that bind most people. The solitary individual does not merely reject society's demands. They transcend them, finding meaning in their own existence rather than in the approval of others. This liberation is what makes solitude dangerous. It is not just a refusal to conform, but a rejection of the very framework that defines conformity. The solitary individual becomes a creator, not just of values, but of their own reality. They live not as a reaction to the world, but as a deliberate act of self-definition, a rebellion against the existential void that society seeks to fill with noise and distraction. This is the ultimate threat. A person who finds meaning within themselves cannot be controlled by a world that thrives on their emptiness. The modern Stoic, a blueprint for dangerous solitude. How do you cultivate this dangerous solitude? In a world that demands connection, begin with deliberate, actionable steps, rooted in the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche. 1. Embrace silence. Spend time alone without distractions. No phone, no music, no noise. Start with 10 minutes and build up, allowing your thoughts to surface without fear. This practice, like Marcus Aurelius's evening review, trains you to face yourself honestly, building resilience against external pressures. 2. Reflect daily. Each evening, examine your day as Marcus did. What did you desire that you did not need? What fears held you back? What actions compromised your values? This reflection builds psychological muscle, making you impervious to manipulation and flattery. 3. Question beliefs. Like Nietzsche, interrogate your beliefs. Why do you hold them? Who benefits from your adherence? What would you believe if you started anew? This intellectual courage frees you from inherited norms, allowing you to create your own values based on reason and experience. For cultivate a rich inner life. Find activities you enjoy alone: reading, writing, walking, creating. Build a sanctuary within yourself, a world of ideas and passions that does not depend on others' presence. This inner wealth makes you self-sufficient, a fortress of contentment others cannot breach. 5. Reject validation. Stop seeking approval from likes, comments, or social status. Find your worth within, rooted in your principles and actions. This is the hardest step, but it is the key to true freedom, a liberation from the chains of external affirmation. 6. Create in solitude. Engage in creative acts: writing, art, music, or thought that express your inner world. These acts of creation are a rebellion against conformity, a testament to your independence, and a source of meaning that transcends societal demands. The paradox of solitude, attraction through independence. Here lies the beautiful irony of dangerous solitude. The person who needs no one becomes the most magnetic to others. When you are complete in yourself, when you radiate self-sufficiency, others are drawn to your strength. This attraction is not the goal but a byproduct, a natural consequence of your independence. Relationships become healthier when they are chosen, not needed. Friendships deepen when they are based on genuine enjoyment, not desperation. Work becomes more fulfilling when it is driven by purpose, not approval. Your solitude does not isolate you, it elevates you, making your connections richer because they are voluntary, not obligatory. This paradox is evident in history and today. Figures like Nelson Mandela, who found strength in the solitude of his imprisonment, emerged as magnetic leaders not because they sought followers, but because they were complete in themselves. Their independence inspired others, not through neediness, but through the power of their self-mastery in your own life. Embracing solitude will transform how you connect with others, making your relationships authentic, your friendships profound, and your work meaningful. The call to dangerous living. So, here is the challenge. Become dangerous, not in the sense of harming others, but in being impossible to control, impossible to manipulate, impossible to silence. Become the person who thinks for themselves, who is comfortable in their own skin, who finds peace in silence and strength in solitude. The world needs more individuals who cannot be bought with popularity, swayed by flattery, or cowed by rejection. It needs more people who are complete within themselves, who can sit with their thoughts without fleeing to distractions, who can forge their own path without bowing to the tribe. This path demands courage, discipline, and a willingness to be misunderstood. It requires you to face the discomfort of silence, the judgment of others, the isolation of standing apart, but the alternative, conformity, neediness, a life dictated by others' expectations, is a far greater loss. To be dangerous is to be free, to live authentically, to embody the strength that comes from within. So, ask yourself, what belief have you carried without choosing it? Where have you sought validation instead of cultivating self-respect? What would it mean to stand alone, not out of loneliness, but out of wholeness? In a world desperate for conformity, the most radical act is to embrace your solitude, to become a threat not through violence, but through the unshakable power of your independence. Stay dangerous, for in your freedom lies the power to reshape the world.